So everybody, thanks so much for listening. If you're a first time listening to us, we'll start with the podcast. If you're listening to us on the podcast, subscribe, like, share, Apple Podcast, all the podcasting sites. I'm not going down the list. YouTube, of course, is where we put up a lot of our information. Definitely subscribe, share, and like there. If you're listening to us on one of the 30 community radio stations that does play our interviews, we greatly appreciate it. And definitely spread the word. Obviously, you can't like, share, and subscribe, but spread the word to your family and friends if you're getting the station so they listen too. We're in quite a few different markets. So spread the word so I can keep getting the people that are on my show out there. I would greatly appreciate that too. So, Jodi Wellman on today. She's got a lot of good information. 4000mondays.com is her website. You know, she does coaching, everything in the kitchen sink. There's so much valuable information on the website. Again, 4000mondays.com. Jodi, I'm honored to have you on, and I really appreciate this opportunity to have you on.
Oh, I am so excited to be here chatting with you. Thanks for the invitation.
You've done many things in your life, Jodi. Can you tell the viewers and the listeners on the radio a little bit about yourself before we kind of get in the meat and potatoes in the interview?
Okay, so this is the appetizer before the meat and potatoes. Okay, all right. Here's our maybe our amuse bouche. So, I did the corporate thing for 17 years, and it was so much fun. I essentially ran health clubs, and I then got to the point of being a big cheese for a national health club brand, and that was fun. And until it wasn't, until I realized I want to do something different, but I don't know what that is. I don't know if anyone in the world can relate to that, the feeling of feeling stuck in a job and not knowing where to go next. Of course, I say that facetiously because haven't we all been there? And so then I kind of saw the light and got into leadership coaching and development. And I worked with CEOs and I work with teams and groups, and it's so much fun. And now, like everything, kind of evolve, right? So I went to grad school at University of Pennsylvania, and I studied applied positive psychology. And part of that was giving myself permission to study this topic of how mortality can actually be a motivator to live with just a little more oomph and motivation and intention. And so by doing that, I said, wait a sec, this is legit. I love this. And it was this sort of like latent passion that I've been kind of trying to dampen for years. And I just said, forget this. Like, I'm going to make this more of my life. So I shifted a lot of my leadership development business into really 4000 Mondays, which is this whole entire focus of our time's ticking. Let's get down to the business of living. So kind of like corporate leader, then working with leaders, now working with the rest of us to just get on with living with intention.
Jodi, I want to talk about this, and I do want to get into 4000 Mondays, but let's just put the clamps down for a second and talk about this because, I remember when I was a kid growing up, and I went to all Catholic schools, but sometimes I would do the fake sick, and I would come home, be picked up, come home. My family would drop me off and go back to work, and I would watch my favorite show at the time, which I still enjoy from time to time, Scooby-Doo. And I would watch that at 1 o'clock. I remember this very vividly in my mind. And it seemed like there was so much time in the day when you're younger, when you're, anywhere from 2 to like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And the days went by so slow and everything was very methodical. Now in our lives as older adults, it seems like the days go by too fast and we can't get everything done. And we're on like boom, 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 boom. Why do you feel like that is? Is this like a mindset that's bad in American culture? Or is this just worldwide culture? Is this technology? What is it?
Oh my gosh. I love that you're asking this question because this affects our lives because this is all about what we're talking about. Like time is limited. Let's use it to our advantage, but it feels really pressure filled when we feel like it's moving faster and faster, like a treadmill. You can't slow down. So you are completely right. Well, it's more than just Western culture. It's more prevalent in Western cultures, but a lot of it is attributed to the level of busyness and habit that happens. So when we age, things seem to ramp up exponentially in terms of time, speed. It warps. compared to being a kid, you're right, because the summers felt long and enormous. And now they feel like 15 minutes. Like, wait, it's September already, right? The issue is that we get ourselves into grooves and routines as adults. I'll talk about the treadmill. We're on a pattern of work, the same routines, and we're not spicing it up enough. And so tell me, have you found this? Do you ever have a weekend where you feel, it's rare, but you get to Sunday and you feel like, man, this weekend has felt long.
Yeah.
And some of the defining characteristics of how we expand our perception of time is by adding in novelty. And so usually, at least for me, if I have a weekend that feels kind of longer than most, it's because, ooh, we did something on Friday night, or wow, there was a new activity, or we went to go and watch a pickleball tournament, or we went to that new brunch place, or you did something out of the ordinary. Mm-hmm. That sense of shift out of a routine of the monotony is what can slow down that perception of that fast treadmill. So a lot of it comes back to novelty.
My question is, though, Jodi, can we slow the time back down as adults, or is it just we can't do it?
Yeah, the way to do it is through spicing things up. Okay. It's a conscious, literal, deliberate routine of saying, okay, let me look at my usual week. And typically we have a pattern that we fall into, right? I don't know about you, but you have a kind of a thing, like a groove you get into. Here's the issue. Is it a groove? Is essentially a rut, which essentially means you're just digging your grave. And so you need to spice it up. You need to say, what can I do to make this week just a little bit different? A new route to work, a different kind of workout, read a different kind of book. I'm looking at the books behind you, right? How do I spice things up? And it can be even the subtle things. It doesn't mean that you need to shake it up and go on a road trip to Tennessee. I mean, don't not do that. But usually for most of us, we're kind of busy people. And it means ordering a very different dinner. It means engaging with friends and having a conversation that you haven't had with people since college. It means shaking things up. That expands our perception of vitality, of kind of the newness, because as humans, we don't know it, but we crave novelty. And that will slow the perception of time down. It's really one of the only ways you can do it, unless you drug yourself.
So, well, let's get into 4,000 Mondays. You talked a little bit about, how this started, very, very small, a very small amount in the opening statement, but can you go a little bit more into how this developed in your mind and, how you kicked it into gear after that development?
Okay, sure. Well, 4,000 Mondays, just by definition, to put this in context, 4,000 weeks is roughly all we're going to get. So some of us might get more if we're lucky on average, and some of us, unfortunately, we will not.
How much is 4,000 Mondays? Sorry to interrupt. As far as years.
Yeah, that's around 80. Okay. So men roughly get 78, women roughly get 83, and we hope for the best. And so with the amount of time we have left, I've always been fascinated by just the finite nature of life and the fact that it's freaking absurd. Right? Like even you as a kid coming home to watch Scooby-Doo, like we all know that we're going to end. And yet we all do this weird thing every day, which is we just get up and keep trucking on and keep, trying to like our lives even more. And I'm in support of that. But it is this bizarre reality that we're faced with as humans. And we're the only animals that know that we are definitely not going to be here forever. And I became fascinated with, well, what are the implications of that? Like in studying positive psychology, which is the study of what makes life worth living, I want to push the envelope and be like, well, we're talking about life worth living, but we're not going to be living forever. What's the interplay there? So by researching it, and there were a few other personal things, right? Like my mom died in her 50s. And that was like it was actually less about her dying. And it was more about the fact that I perceived she had a bunch of regrets. Like she had all these things she wanted to do, but never took action on it because she lacked confidence. And oh my goodness, that just gripped me because it was part of it was personal. Like I had things I wanted to do, but I didn't have the confidence to start it either. And therein lies wait a minute, if we have 4,000 weeks, and at the time that I started 4,000 Mondays, I would have had roughly 2,000 weeks left. So like half time in the game. It was this thing of, I'm going to get on with it. I'm going to start the thing. I'm going to talk more about the thing that has captivated me because I feel like I would like scream it from the freaking mountaintops. Like, we're taking life for granted. We are just going through the motions in so many days. And I do it too. You know, I need to wake myself up half the time, but like, let's just, holy jeez, like, let's get down to let's do this thing. Like that gripped me. And it just made me feel like, in all honesty, Rob, it's almost like, it sounds cheesy, but in a calling kind of way, like I can't not do it. Like I can't not be talking about this. And the bigger the stage, the better. Like, let's wake up. Let's live.
For people listening, again, Jodi Wellman, 4000mondays.com. Definitely check out the website. A lot there that you can learn from. There's even some quizzes on there, and I do hope people go and do that too. I want to move towards the last few audience questions and toward the end of the interview. And as we go into that, I believe this is a big thing. We had a couple of people that asked this question in the audience questions. So I'll kind of formulate those questions together. It was basically about self-talk and how self-talk is really important. If you have somebody in your life that maybe pummeled you into the ground, basically, with verbal talk that really was terrible, and that talk from that person will keep repeating in your head, and it'll get worse for you, even if that person has left you in life, is not around you. Can you talk about that and how really important that is for us to really get that self-talk in check, rather?
Sure thing. Yeah, there's research around self-compassion, which is going to be part of this, right? So a lot of the times our self-talk, the talk track, is negative when we screw up. And because we're human, we ain't going to stop screwing up, right? So the choice in that moment is to say, well, how do I want to treat myself? And do I want to treat myself like the jerk, like I've been treating myself, or do I want to treat myself like a friend who I'd actually give a lot more grace and say, yeah, you know what? Maybe that wasn't the biggest home run at work or with that client or whatever you did, but what can you learn? Or so Kristen Neff is a resource if anybody wants to look that up. I love labeling the names of the voices in your head. And there's an online assessment. Again, this is free. I love free assessments that are actually research-based. So if you go to positiveintelligence.com, there is a saboteur assessment. And I love this because there are 9 different voices of judgment. And so maybe you hear a voice all the time that says, yeah, but you got to say yes. You can't say no to that opportunity because maybe you're a pleaser. So pleaser is a really common saboteur, right? Or maybe there's the avoider, which is, I want to avoid conflict at all costs. So I'm just not going to go there, but then I'm going to get like festering, bitter resentment. And so labeling the saboteur is important. And I usually do this with any client or group because there's more power in it. If you can name it and you can bust it when it's actually going on in your head and say, wait a sec, that sounds like the hyperachiever voice telling me that I have to keep achieving at work and beyond, or else I'm not worth anything in life. Like, well, then you're able to actually tangle with it rather than just believing it, because it ain't true, right? It's not true. You just have to focus on saying, wait, that's the small part of me trying to keep me safe. But if I want to live like a better version of my life, and I want to spend my remaining however many Mondays left, and I want to give this life a chance and live it like I mean it, I want to try and turn down the volume on those voices that are not empowering. And I want to try and turn up the volume on the voices, which is getting in touch with who is that best version of you? And what would that voice say, right? What would the voice of your best friend say if you had self-compassion? What would the voice, if you took those saboteurs and torched them in the fire and you relied only on the voice of, even if I had confidence, what would I do? That's the thing. Many of us, we wait for confidence to occur. Well, that's going to be a bus that you're going to be standing outside in the cold, waiting a long, long time for that bus to arrive, and it never will. You need to do something. You need to take action, and then confidence grows as a result of feeling like, you know what? I tried. Maybe it didn't work out perfectly, but I tried and I feel better about myself. That builds confidence. And then the next thing you do builds even more confidence, and so on. That makes sense?
Again, Jodi Wellman, 4000mondays.com. Jodi, where else can people find more about you besides the website, follow you on social media? And also, I know you, like we said, you have quite a few quizzes and a lot of information on the website. Anything else you want to tell the viewers before we end the conversation today?
Oh, thanks for asking. Pretty much everything's at 4000mondays.com, but I do have a TEDx talk, which can be found on YouTube. So you can just, Google Jodi Wellman TEDx. That'd be great. And I am on Instagram. So 4000 Mondays, and it's spelled out FOURTHO and so on. So love to see you there.
Actually, last question. People are asking, when are you going to write a book?
Oh, thanks for asking. It's in the works. Woo!
Okay.
Woo!
All right. So it's in the works. And then are we looking at this year? Well, I should say 2023 or 2024. What are we looking at?
Depends on the publisher. That's out of my pay grade, that decision.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. All right. Well, we'll end with that again. 4,000 Mondays, Jodi Wellman. Thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it. And we look forward to having you on again.
Great. Thank you so much. What a great conversation.